For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. Armstrong. We were made to understand that the moon is occupied. Many years have passed since that day when the late legendary astronaut Neil Armstrong saw alien ships on the moon. And although he later kept excusing himself with the claim that he had been misunderstood, the words he spoke back then were not sparrows to just fly away. It turns out, however, that alien spacecraft on the moon are not the greatest sensation. Some British organizations managed to obtain photographs from the Pentagon of the lunar surface showing ruined cities. Broadly speaking, since ancient times, people have considered the moon to be inhabited. This belief is reflected in many legends and traditions. Even the medieval Inquisition did not dare to deny the habitability of the night star, although it declared the moon to be the kingdom of Satan. Such a conviction is hardly the fruit of imagination alone, but more likely also of observation. For several decades now, the lunar crater Euclid has puzzled scientists. It lies in a bay, shaped like an equilateral triangle. Even that alone is very unusual. What's more, photographs have captured a giant mound 3 kilometers high, which, because of its shape, specialists named the Shard. In appearance, it very much resembles a city tower. But that is not all. Not far from the tower there is a massive hill about 11 kilometers high, separated from the tower. But what is it? Since people could not solve the riddle themselves, they fed it into a computer. The expectations of something unusual were confirmed in abundance. Detailed analysis of the structure revealed that both the shard and the tower consist of a crystalline transparent substance resembling fiberglass, a layer of which covers a large surface while having a specific geometric form. NASA and the Pentagon have already conducted their secret investigations, which showed that the fragile fiberglass in its structure resembles steel more, while its durability and strength have no earthly equivalent. On July 20, 1969, the Apollo 11 module landed on the lunar surface. Armstrong and Aldrin in spacesuits went outside. And what did they see? The astronauts reported incredible things live on air. At the very edge of the crater stood enormous ships in a row, watching the inhabitants of Earth. Suddenly the crater was struck by a bright light. Communication with Earth collapsed, but was quickly restored. The astronauts swore they were not alone on the moon. Fearfully, they compared the aliens to large dolls. Later, astronauts who landed on the moon recounted that they had been warned about the real possibility of meeting aliens. But the sight of the foreign ships, despite the warning, made a deep impression on them. The astronauts were simply astonished by the technological capabilities of the extraterrestrials. An engineer who left NASA claimed that even a code phrase had been agreed upon for this encounter. and the astronauts used it. Santa Claus exists. Armstrong confirmed that UFOs had been photographed, but all the photographs were handed over to the CIA, which simply wanted to prevent panic among ordinary people. And there was plenty of reason for panic. Earth's inhabitants had no effective weapon against UFOs. The French laser cannon Top 2 appeared only in the 1980s, when with its help unknown flying objects were shot down over South Africa. For unknown reasons, the Americans quietly discontinued their very expensive lunar program and have not flown there for a long time, even though technologies are now much more advanced. But more than 40 years ago, the flights were not stopped immediately. Apollo 12 was accompanied by a UFO for its entire journey to the moon. Apollo 15 delivered to our satellite a lunar rover resembling a jeep, on which the astronauts were to travel across the lunar surface. But in the very first minute, something passed over their heads in a skimming flight. In April 1972, near the Descartes crater, the crew of Apollo 16 landed and aimed cameras at surrounding objects. A huge disk clearly appeared, hovering over the lunar surface. The last Earthling to visit the moon was geologist Harrison Schmitt in December 1972. Along with him on the moon was Eugene Cernan, the expedition commander. At the edge of the Sea of Serenity, they collected orange glass beads, and then saw orange orbs darting along the slope of the crater. But that is not all. The question arises, how did wide tracks resembling runways for takeoff and landing appear on the moon? Someone leveled the terrain, cut through rocks and hills. Who left on the surface tracks of thin wheels, not like those of the Soviet lunar rovers? All this is true, not fiction. In the fall of 1973, NASA admitted that more than 20 astronauts had observed UFOs on the moon, and the head of the lunar program, von Braun, directly said that UFOs exist and that the aliens are far stronger than previously thought. But unfortunately, he was not allowed to reveal further details. The moon was also explored by Soviet lunokhds. They even landed there before the American modules. It is entirely possible that cosmonauts saw UFOs and reported to their leadership. It is possible that the aliens even established contact with them. Naturally, in newspapers and other currently accessible sources, there is nothing on the subject. Perhaps the Russians realized that contact would not be established and stopped flying to the moon. Or perhaps the then party secretary Nikita Khrushchev secretly hoped for an alliance with the aliens and wanted no one else to interfere. The first version is more plausible. The space program of the USSR at that time aimed at setting a record for human stay in space. But when the ship was in position, the operation, for unclear reasons, was abruptly stopped. According to researchers observing the operation from Earth, the ship was accompanied by UFOs right up to its orbital exit, after which they began playing with it. As a result, the terrified pilots were brought back home. Then, allegedly for safety reasons, this project was discontinued. In the 1950s, UFOs flying over Earth were returning precisely to the moon. They were tracked by secret services of governments, recording their trajectories. Such services operated in the Nevada desert, in Arizona, in underground bases in the mountains. Astronomers have photographed spacecraft over the moon many times. At the same time, new phenomena on the unknown lunar surface attracted astronomers' attention. Movement of objects, light sources in craters, explosions. Some scientists, like Fred Steckling, for instance, tried to find explanations, but none of these phenomena were ever commented upon in any way. The then U.S. President Kennedy was very interested in the program, which had already consumed tens of billions of dollars. But if extraterrestrial intelligence not only wanted to make contact, but was also opposed to uninvited guests, then Kennedy would have had to explain the situation directly to taxpayers. According to some, this is exactly what he intended to do in Dallas, but a sniper silenced him forever. It is obvious that for a long time to come the moon will remain a mystery to us, Earth's inhabitants. The moon has a very small core. Its soil composition is strange. Moreover, something forced the moon to move in such a way that it always shows only one side to Earth, and the other part of the surface. More than 40% of our celestial satellite remains invisible to Earth's inhabitants. Who knows what man may discover on that dark side of the moon? Anyone following the subject has surely noticed how, despite technological progress, spacefaring nations have for decades pretended that the moon does not interest them. However, in the past year or two, things have changed dramatically. The Chinese, Indians, and Russians almost simultaneously announced a silent race to send expeditions to the moon. The Russians even reported recruiting volunteers for a mission scheduled for the coming years. The conclusion is more than clear. In the 1970s, someone unequivocally told Earthlings not to meddle with the moon. With the race now underway, it is obvious that some agreement has been reached, because otherwise it would probably mean Star Wars.